So, romantic comedies. Love them or hate them, they are one of the simplest and successful genres out there. Known for their charm, predictable plots, and cheesy or heartfelt moments, romantic comedy is a genre with a central theme about love. More than that, rom-coms also reflect deeper cultural values and social norms of their time. While rom-coms have been around for decades with repeated noticeable patterns, especially in Hollywood blockbuster featuring heterosexual leads in their 20s to 30s, some changes within the genre have been made, specifically during the years 2000s to 2025, due to modern social changes like feminism and self-care culture, which has gone significantly more mainstream in this modern era. Notably, these two factors have reshaped not only how romance is portrayed, but how characters express autonomy, boundaries, and desires. By examining changes in plot structures, character tropes, and recurring cliches reveals how rom-coms continue to evolve alongside the audiences they're made for. Despite all the changes in modern production, romantic comedies rely on tropes, cliches, and predictable patterns. Many rom-com tropes are timeless and a lot of them have aged like fine wine. They get repeated almost without change across different decades and have created a working formula for modern films to follow. This said formula exists mainly as plot tropes, character tropes, and scene tropes. For plot cliches, some of the most recognizable rom-com plot cliches include the contract or fake relationship, enemies to lovers, or amnesia or mistaken identity. The contract or fake relationship trope usually follows a familiar arc. Two people pretend to be together, either knowingly or unknowingly, often due to a setup by family or friends. One or both parties deny real feelings, but as time goes on, genuine emotions begin to surface, leading to inner conflict. Eventually, the truth is exposed, causing a dramatic fallout, and in true rom-com fashion, it all ends with a heartfelt reconciliation, often sealed by a grand romantic gesture. Then, enemies to lovers, which is just as classic. It starts with constant bickering, clashing personalities, and denial until all that tension flips into romantic chemistry. Sometimes their conflicts are revealed to be a mirror that reflects the emotions they were too afraid to admit. And then there's amnesia or mistaken identity, where memory loss or a case of pretending to be someone else creates confusion but also opens the door to unexpected love. These plot cliches may be predictable, but they're also comforting and they work for a reason. Next up, we have character tropes. Romantic comedies rely heavily as much on character tropes. Some of the most famous character tropes can include hopeless romantic, where the character strongly believes in true love and dreams of finding their perfect soulmate. Most of the time, hopeless romantic characters are literally hopelessly and desperately in love. Playboy, where the character is presented as very charming and flirty. Some of them are shown to date many people without wanting a serious relationship. Fear of commitment, where the character avoids being in a relationship or having any commitment because they're scared of being tied down or getting hurt. These character tropes appear a lot in so many rom-com films, no matter the era, that they can be considered a crucial ingredient that make a formula for rom-com films. Last but not least, scene cliches. Some of the most famous scene cliches include misunderstanding, where the main characters mistakenly understand something about the other, most of the time being about their relationship. Grand romantic gesture, where the first kind being overly dramatic or grand actions done by a main character, usually in public, in an attempt to appeal to the love interest for romantic purposes, and the second kind being actions that sacrifice something of that character in order to be with the love interest. And lastly, reuniting, where the two love interests, after being separated due to plot reasons, find their way back together for a happily ever after. Due to their abundant use, the three scenes tropes alongside many others are widely integrated in the making of a romantic comedy. In this way, we can see that there is a formula in the making of impactful scenes in romantic comedies.
Rom-coms may still rely on timeless tropes, but not all tropes are time-resistant. While some remain unchanged, others have been reshaped to reflect evolving social values. Often described as a female-centered genre, romantic comedies have had to adapt, especially with the rise of feminism. As movements like Me Too gained momentum, the genre began to reflect more feminist ideas about women, agency, and relationships. One major shift in modern rom-coms is how women's independence is portrayed. In earlier films, female leads often enter the story through roles tied to male protagonists, like being hired or discovered by him. Their journeys are frequently shaped around his needs. In contrast, newer rom-coms tend to introduce women as already established, professionally, emotionally, and socially. They are no longer just part of his story. They have their own. Romance becomes a choice, not a rescue. Another shift influenced by feminism in rom-coms is the way female leads now express assertiveness, shifting from quiet, socially acceptable confidence to something more direct, layered, and self-driven. In earlier films, women are often shown as composed and in control, but in a way that still fits into traditional expectations, being nurturing, emotionally mature, and often existing to support the male lead's growth. Assertiveness in these stories is subtle, and while the women are capable, their own wants tend to stay in the background. As rom-coms moved into the 2010s, we start to see a more balanced approach. Female characters become more vocal, more sexually confident, and more open about their boundaries. But even then, the romance often absorbs their independence, making it part of the love story. As for more recent films, they take it further. Female leads are now allowed to be loud, flawed, and unapologetically assertive. They make the first move, challenge emotional expectations, and don't always tie their growth to a relationship. The story isn't about fixing someone else, rather, it's about choosing themselves. Across the years, these shifts reflect how rom-coms have evolved as assertiveness is no longer limited to being polite or selfless. Now it can be messy, bold, and entirely on a woman's own terms.
Feminism isn't the only social movement that influenced the evolution of rom-com tropes, however, as other movements have also gained traction during the passing years. One such movement that became a big trend is the self-care movement, and rom-coms have also evolved to reflect this. The self-care movement, to put it simply, is a social movement focused on self-love, respect, and well-being, both physically and mentally. The movement itself started around the 2010s, but was slow to catch on in mainstream media. However, in modern times, we can see this movement being shown in different ways within romantic comedies. In older films, the hopeless romantic trope is used to write characters who are desperate for love and delude themselves in the idea that they are hopeless. But in newer films, the same hopeless romantic character now focuses on self-love. Despite still deluding in daydreams of the perfect wedding or cliché romantic scenes, the character now also do things for their own good rather than do nothing. The matter of self-respect is also tackled, as older films tend to show characters lacking in this department when it comes to love. An example of this is how a female lead would go see the male lead after breaking their relationship, showing a clear lack of putting the self first. Newer films, meanwhile, show a fresher take on self-respect, where the characters don't let others push them nor their feelings around. They know when they are being played for a fool and protect themselves accordingly. In romantic comedy, there are many methods in turning one and one into two. Some may have chosen to stick to conventional means and use a formula for streamlined success, while others sought progressive methods in bringing their lovebirds to life. In that process, romantic comedies have evolved into forms that shifted towards the needs and wants of the society they were born into. Men and women were no longer thrusted upon unbalanced scales of representation, and mental wellness was no longer neglected. Elements in rom-com films are altered to give more roles and agency regardless of gender, and give importance to self-love and awareness. However, while there is a clear trend of tropes and the arguments of progression, there is never one true way to romantic comedy, just like love. The forms they take may have changed, but many things about them still stay the same.
So kiss me